Today we're going to be discussing how Jiri defeats Alex Pereira. I think this is a real possibility, but he has a few things that he needs to sort out to make sure he maximizes that opportunity. If somebody said to me, Alex Pereira is going to win, I'd go, yeah, I see that happening. Somebody says Jiri Prochazka is going to win. I go, yeah. See that happening, not surprised. If somebody told me that this fight is going to move into round 4 or 5, that would surprise me. We have a knockout coming. Let's talk about how Jiri wins. Before we jump into how Jiri gets the victory at UFC 303 over Pereira, I want to take a moment and thank my friends at Bioptimizers for supporting the channel, supporting this episode. And we are talking today about Masszymes. This is a product, a supplement which you should be taking if you're trying to increase your muscle volume, but also if you're over 35 years old. As you age, your body produces less enzymes, and they're responsible for helping to digest your food. If you're over 35 like I am, your enzymes have already begun to decline, and you don't want chronic gut issues, so Masszymes is perfect for you. Masszymes is the most complete and most potent digestive enzyme I've ever seen or experienced, with over 102% more proteins than its nearest competitor. And that is crucial because protein is the most complex macronutrient to break down. Without the right enzymes, it's just gonna sit in that gut and you're not gonna get all the benefits you think you are. Bioptimizers has a full 365-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like the product, it's not working for you, no questions asked, money back. You can head over to bioptimizers.com/Gabriel and use my promo code Gabriel10 to save 10%. So Pereira versus Prochazka, number 2. In the first fight, Jiri struggled with a couple things, but overall gave a very good performance. I think going into this one though, Pereira is the favorite, although I really see Prochazka having a very good chance of victory. The first thing that Jiri has to do is he has to sort out how to not get kicked in the calf and get damaged so quickly. Alex Pereira has an unorthodox technique when executing his calf kick. It just kind of looks like he's just football kicking. There's no pivot. He gets pretty good length on it. So he's not like, oh, I have to just throw from here. He really elongates himself. And it was difficult for Jiri to pick up on that. The very first thing that he should be doing in order to deal with that is utilize what he already naturally does, stance switching. The difference between him being in this stance and him being in this stance is he turns his toes very slightly inwards. That means out of his orthodox stance, he's terrible position for taking maximum damage. But from here, if he takes the inside low or anything below the knee, it's going to land on his shin, which will end up hurting Pereira more. Alternatively, he could turn his toes slightly outwards and fight more from this stance as opposed to here. All about that foot positioning. If he can sort that out, he takes away a massive weapon which Pereira had in their first fight. The next thing, which is a must for Jiri, is to work those awkward angles and those awkward movements, because even somebody like Pereira, who's a little unorthodox, he's still a kickboxer. He still fights a certain way, and orthodox fighters hate going up against people who don't fight right. It throws you off so much. So Jiri, with his weird kind of bounciness and his little angles and such, it's all going to throw Pereira off. The more he can do that, the better. He does not want to stand in front of him and ever square up and ever stop moving, stop faking. Terrible idea. He needs to be as unorthodox as possible. Now, if I was going into this fight and I was the coach, I might be going, we want to get Pereira to the ground. And you have to assume that Pereira is going to be thinking about that as well. That's why I think faking takedowns and then going up high is a great opportunity to capitalize. Something where he's doing his weird movements and he fakes down and then he comes over top. I think there'll be good success there. He tried it in the last fight, didn't really get the connection he wanted, but it still had elements of success. Drop the weight, look down, and charge up high. Eyesight can make a big difference. Depending on the fighter you're in front of, if you drop your head, they might not necessarily see your eyes, but they're going to see your head drop and they're going to assume, oh, he's looking somewhere. Sometimes these basic things, very basic work, and these fake takedowns, I think, will be gold for Jiri. Now, because of the massive power which Pereira possesses, Jiri is gonna have to be moving in and out. The knockdown came when he stopped doing that. He decided, I'm gonna come in and go within punch range. He's gotta hit, he's gotta exit, or he's gotta hit and get that takedown done really fast. But no standing still, in and out motions, it's gonna work beautifully. Now, something which is crazy is the knockout in the last fight was initially in the left hook, which kind of wobbled him, but then Jiri goes for the takedown and he just kind of gets clubbed in position. He cannot go for a takedown and stay there because Pereira just has so much power that even when you're on his leg about to get a takedown, he might be able to do something. So Jiri's got to be very careful when executing takedowns to keep his head safe from all attacks. And hopefully somebody in his camp has gone through and been like, okay, here's the risk ones, the risky takedowns, and here's the ones where you can keep your head very safe. Probably he doesn't want to get his head too low, because that'll give Pereira more chance of getting power, getting up fairly high, maybe snugging his head as far back behind the lat as he can. Something like that might help him stay safe on these takedown attempts. But you know, if Jiri can get Pereira to the ground, he's gonna have good success in that round. In the first fight, in the first round, he got him down there and he just kind of held him there for about 2 minutes of the round. The area he did not have success, however, was actually landing shots which were doing damage. It wasn't like Pereira was doing anything incredibly smart. He just was kind of here and kind of had his arms in the way. So if Jiri this time can go, okay, I'm in this position, I can disconnect and at least get some body shots happening or something, have some success there where he starts putting a hurting on him, then Pereira might have to give up his back. And that's again where Jiri has a better chance of finishing the fight than Pereira. Everything else striking to striking is going to be very dangerous, but if you can go groundwork and start doing the submission thing, see if Pereira can escape from submission attempts, then we're going to be a little bit more in favor of Jiri for sure. Now, we've already talked about Pereira's power. Everybody knows if he touches you, it can be game over. We saw that in their first fight. One little touch, boom, down goes Jiri. Head movement is going to be so key. You might think, oh, hands up, hands have to be up, but it doesn't really work with Pereira because the small gloves, one little mistake, one miscalculation, and even off an arm, you might get knocked out. So the head movement, which Jiri employs, is going to be so imperative. Every time in the last fight, when Pereira came forward and Jiri just faded back, maybe with a little step, he was staying safe. And that was fantastic. So head movement is going to be so key. The only problem with this is you can't make one mistake. Like one moment where you're lapsing in judgment, you get clipped, that could be it. So you've got to be dialed in until you get that knockdown of your own. Again, I don't see this fight going 25 minutes. Not like he needs to stay dialed in for 25 minutes. He needs to stay dialed in until he gets the knockdown. That might come within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, not beyond that. I just don't see it. And the fakes, because with the head movement, he's already doing a good job with the evasion, but to stop Pereira from just walking forward and not being scared, he's got to be faking. He's got to be pushing those out and then off a couple fakes, like the kind of probing fakes, then he needs to hit and he needs to get that clean exit, which we already talked about. Never starting within punch range and never staying there for too long. Piece all that together and you have a good chance of striking with Pereira. Now, counters will work against Pereira because he is a tough dude, but when he does get hit, he does not take the shots well. Sometimes it just looks like it glazes off him because he's really good at just kind of moving with shots. But when he holds his head stationary and he doesn't see it, he does not have that head where it's just like, there's no way of putting this dude down. Like Mark Hunt 15 years ago. didn't matter if he saw the shot or not. It's just like, you can't put that dude down. But that's not what Pereira has. So it's risky to throw the counters because you might get hit yourself when you're within that punch range. But he almost had success in the last fight. And again, if he can keep everything going with the fakes, the head movement, maybe lean his head back and come with a counter so he's not having to block and counter, he could have great success there. Talking about beating Alex Pereira is far easier than actually doing it. So I see the big, difficult road ahead for Jiri Prochazka in getting the victory in this fight, but I do see a road to victory. And that's the most important thing. Sometimes people step into fights and I'm kind of looking going, I don't know how he's going to win this. Like, it's got to be almost a fluke. Like 9 out of 10 times he loses. I don't think this is a 9 out of 10 times Jiri loses. He needs to fight the right fight. He needs to be focused and he needs to do everything which I mentioned today. And hopefully, if he had enough time to wrap his head not only in the short training camp he had to do everything which I mentioned, but since their last fight. He's sort of been calculating, thinking about what he did wrong. Hopefully he has all this down already, and then he just kind of spruced it up in training camp and got his cardio on point. What do you guys think? Who is going to take the win in the main event at UFC 303? Let me know in the comments below. As always, guys, train hard, and I will see you back here soon for another video.